Welcome back to another edition of Through the Smoke, a Miami Hurricanes football and recruiting podcast here on the 24/7 Sports Network. David Lake, joined as always by Gabby Urrutia. We're here to review some of our thoughts on the 49-12 win over USF. After watching the game back, maybe we see things a little differently. And I think it was an interesting rewatch in a lot of ways. We'll dive into it here. Of course, on the front end, we want to highlight two of our sponsors, Canes Connection. That, of course, is Miami's collective. This week, Miami is hosting Florida, right? And Miami enters this game number 4, viewed as one of the top teams in the country, while Florida is 1-2 and underachieving. And I think Miami has the better roster. It's pretty clear and obvious, right? Apart from those results. And Canes Connections played a significant role in that. Florida's collective was a mess early on. They've cleaned things up here recently, but Canes Connection has been strong from the jump. So go support those guys, canesconnection.com. Also want to highlight, of course, Musarino Law. If you've been injured in a slip and fall accident, boating accident, trucking accident, Uber or Lyft accident, any type of car accident, Nick Musarino is the personal injury attorney you should contact at 561-960-9870 or visit his website at flinjury.law. Both those ways to contact him will be in the show notes. Nick is hyped about how this team's looking. I don't blame them. They look like one of the best teams in the country right now. All right, Gabby, I'll give you the floor. We both rewatched this game. Where do you want to take the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was interesting, right? Like, I think, first of all, I think just the way Miami, again, USF scored late, but, in the fourth quarter. But, I mean, during the competitive aspects of this game, just truly just pure domination. The efficiency of the offense, I think, just really stood out. Even in the hiccup moments, right? Carson Beck throws 2 interceptions, 0 points off of those interceptions. Really, the defense goes three and out, and then three and out with a forced fumble. So I like to me it was just like a super complimentary ultimate example of what that looks like. In general, I just outside of just like the players, I thought that there were just interesting things that Miami did. And you mentioned it on the Instant Reaction podcast, David, but watching it back, I think it became really evident just how different, Miami kind of, or how many different things Miami kind of put out there that teams have to prepare for. You talked about you mentioned the bunch formations on the Instant Reaction podcast, and they did that like quite often. Like it wasn't just like a couple times here or there. Like they were in a lot of those tight bunch formations, and how they went kind of jumbo package I thought was really interesting. They got into an I formation one play. There was a false start. I would have loved to see that play run because it was what was it? Ryan Rodriguez was outside of Bell. Samson Okunlola was at left guard. Matthew McCoy was outside of CC with Alex Bauman attached to him. And SJ Alifatuli was playing fullback. So that would have been a cool play just to see run. I just think, honestly, it was a kind of a flex for Miami to just be like, hey, like, we kind of are a complete team, and they just imposed their will from the jump. Those long drives were highly efficient on offense. The second half, I thought they really just turned it up in the third quarter and just out physicaled USF to the point where it was just like there just wasn't a path for USF, I think, in the big picture of this. So really encouraging, I think, performance for Miami watching it back and just kind of thinking like, this is a potential big time squad.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll take this conversation to Carson Beck and just watch, rewatching the game, and then of course, we have the benefit of being able to look at some of the advanced statistics from the game too after the game. Compared to when we do the instant reaction. I think, in the instant reaction too, I kind of felt like, I think I said this, or I felt, during the game watching it, it felt like Carson Beck was really, you know, deep ball hunting maybe has a bad connotation. I don't mean it that way, but he was looking to push the ball deep against that USF defense compared to what we saw the first 2 weeks. Um, and he did throw 8 deep shots. So deep shots, according to PFF, is 20 yards or more past the line of scrimmage. He was 5 of 8 on those attempts for 146 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The thing that makes that tells a story of how dominant he kind of was on the day was his 82% completion rate,
Yeah.
because he's doing that as a guy that threw 8 deep shots as well. And, you know, that's a 8 is a lot in a game. He has attempted 16 on the year. So in that one game, he totaled the same amount as he did the first 2 weeks. And 16 deep shots is tied for 10th most in the country for all quarterbacks. So his completion percent, I think he's number one in the country right now, right?
Yeah,
In
I think he's
completion
leading the nation in
percentage.
completion percentage.
And he does that as a guy that pushes the ball downfield. So, we saw a different, and he was that at Georgia. Like, he was aggressive and threw the ball deep a lot at Georgia. So we're seeing that now in week 3, just on, that other side of Carson. And I think overall it went well. One of the picks was just a Malachi Tony mix up on the
Hmm.
route. The other pick, he just forced it. He shouldn't have forced
Yeah.
it. Both of them were pressured technically. Um, but in some ways too, Gabby, I think you could make the argument like maybe it was good to kind of do that in that game,
Yeah.
kind of, get it out of his system a little
Yeah.
bit going into this Florida game.
Yeah. And there wasn't they weren't in bad situations. Like it wasn't like I think the first pick Miami was already up. What I think what was it 21-6 or 14-6 something like that. Like
Yeah.
Miami already or was already I think had established some level of just like okay, like there is some runaway potential with this. And I think he made, again, bad decision, but there was never, both of these plays came in situations where there was just like comfort as far as just like the scoreboard and just the way the game flow was going. It wasn't like first drive getting pressured, terrible decision, or
Yeah.
red zone, trying to about to score to take a lead or only up 3. And so I feel like where the interceptions came, again, you don't want to see those things, but those things are going to happen. And neither one of them, like I said, was costly. And I think that's huge too, the way the defense was able to just kind of pick up the offense in those situations and be dominant and, on the back end of those unfortunate turnovers. So that's huge because I think USF was I think they were way positive in the turnover margin in the first 2 games where they had won the turnover battle in both of the first 2
Yeah.
games and those turnovers helped them win both of those games. And so for Miami to turn the ball over twice and still have, a ton of runway and a ton of separation, I think just says a lot about this team. Yeah, Carson Beck was awesome, man. Just watching it, I mean, just the efficiency of this passing game is a blast. And again, I think that the way that he just kind of goes on these long drives, it's impressive. He's able to march the team down the field 75. I think they had a 75-yard drive, they had an 85-yard drive, and then I think they had a 90-yard, and these are all touchdown drives. So he can go like he can just command this offense down the field, and there's so many complementary pieces. Mark Fletcher, I mean, I thought this was an excellent Mark Fletcher game, especially in the second half as they started to kind of wear down on that USF defense. In the third quarter, he kind of has that 13-yard touchdown run that kind of broke him out. He had that long 38-yard touchdown run where he kind of, shimmied his way around there. And then, I thought Mark Fletcher, that was some of the best ball that I've seen from him.
Yeah. It's the only other game that is maybe in contention for his best game outside of this USF performance is the Louisville game as a true freshman, where he ran for 126 in that game. He also had 2 touchdowns in that game, like he did against USF. But you're right, this game was really impressive. He had 90 yards after contact, and USF was presenting a lot of loaded boxes for him to have to run into. And he averaged 5.63 yards per carry after contact. And it's certainly the best game he's had since the 2024 seasons, including those games. And it's a good sign that he worked hard to change his body and get back on track. And he definitely looked the part and carried the run game against that USF team. Uh, One thing I want to discuss, and look, I honestly can't believe I'm saying this, or I'm going to ask you this, Gabby, but I think it's worth a genuine conversation. And maybe it's too early to have this, but I think it's a fair conversation to have. Is this receiving core better than last year's?
It might be. I mean, we talked about it, right? Is there, you said, I think one of your hot takes was there won't be a drop off between at the slot position.
At
I
the
mean, at
slot?
this,
I
at
think
that,
everywhere except
yeah,
tight end. I mean, tight end
for sure.
is a different conversation.
Definitely. But the receivers, I mean, all right, so I think Malachi Tony's right there. I don't think this offense is missing Xavier Restrepo at all, and Malachi Tony's been super
Right.
productive. We're basically saying CJ Daniels or Isaiah Horton. I mean, I think CJ Daniels has made plays that Isaiah Horton never really made here. Maybe Isaiah Horton has more of just like the true vertical ability, but I
Yeah.
feel like CJ Daniels has been a better overall wide receiver than Isaiah Horton had been here. And then, Keelan Marion, I mean, I think what he showed in that USF game, he kind of gave us a little bit of everything, right? Like kind of like the gadget side to side stuff. He took a sweep. He kind of came back and made a nice play on a ball thrown a little bit behind him where he held on to it. He showed us the vertical ability on that deep shot in the third quarter where he kind of, faded towards the sideline and came down and tracked it and read that and made that play. That was impressive. Like, and then I think it's just deeper too. Tony Johnson, I thought had some impressive moments too. Made a play early in the first quarter, then had that long 51 yarder. Showed a little bit something. Then you just got Josh Moore, who made two
Josh
awesome
Moore,
plays
yeah.
as a freshman. Also, like, those two huge contested catches. I definitely think it's deeper, right? Like, I think that there's definitely an argument to be made that it's better overall. Like, all right, so maybe like, all right, so we know that last year's receiver room, none of those guys to this point have stuck in the NFL, right? Like, how many
Right.
are there NFL receivers in this wide receiver room right
Well,
now?
that's the thing too. Like look, I think CJ Daniels has been excellent for what he is to this point. Is he an NFL draft pick? You know, I would say probably not,
Yeah.
but
And if he
but again,
continues with some of this contested catch stuff, like someone might take a
yeah,
fly, like a late round flyer on him as
and he
like,
would have to run a good 40, which I just
yeah,
don't know if he has that in him or not. Keelan Marion to me still needs to show more. I think your NFL draft guys are the young
young
guys
guys. Yeah.
that are still, 2 more years away from, being even at that point. Like I think, if, health goes okay for these guys, like Malachi Tony's an NFL draft pick and Josh Moore is an NFL draft pick.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean that the draft pick part is part of this conversation though. If, and look, Isaiah Horton probably is going to be drafted, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so he's probably the one that makes this conversation the most difficult because, I do think he's a talented dude. I do think he's going to be drafted. Um, but, and look, this is corny and I don't really like going into this type of talk, but I think this group, from an intangible standpoint, has a massive edge over last year's group in terms of just like the vibes and how they're all about the team.
Hmm.
And, they put in the extra work together as a group, as a team. Like Jacoby George was a knucklehead, right? We all know, you know, his issues with avoiding big penalties or not being able to avoid big
Yeah.
penalties. Sam
Reactionary
Brown,
penalties.
right. Sam Brown was, I mean, he was a mercenary transfer, and I don't know if he was necessarily all about being a Miami Hurricane. I mean, he didn't play in the bowl game for a reason. Xavier Restrepo, look, I'm not saying this because he's like I don't think he's a bad guy when I say this, but like Xavier Restrepo is kind of all about Xavier Restrepo. And that's part of what made him really good. Like he's a good player, he works hard, and he's going to do everything he can for himself to produce. And again, I think that's fine. But I look back at it and like I think it's a little disappointing that he opted out of the Cheez It Bowl
Yeah.
when Cam Ward and Elijah Arroyo played in the not is it the no, it's Pop Tarts Bowl. Sorry.
Pop Tarts Bowl.
The other Orlando Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pop Tarts Bowl. Um
Too many
when
snacks related with bowl games.
yeah, Cam and Arroyo did play in it. And that's just a
Yeah,
weird look
Damien
to
Damien
me.
Martinez played.
Isaiah Horton, like I don't know if he necessarily respected Kevin Beard as the position coach and like ultimately left for Alabama, chasing the bag, which is fine. Like, I mean, again, Alabama's a big time program and, go get paid, etc. Also, like, I need you to catch a slant at the end of the game against Syracuse that could go win that game. So, like, from an intangible standpoint, this group currently runs circles around that group.
Yeah.
And from a team and vibe standpoint, I don't know. I just feel like I might ride with this group
Yeah.
instead of last year's group.
It's another thing that comes up too. I mean, we've kind of seen it, and I feel like it's been well documented at this point too. But just like I feel like spring transfer guys, you never really know what you're gonna get. You mentioned Sam Brown last year. Like I think there's always just like a risk factor, an additional risk factor with those guys. That Mark Fletcher 39-yard touchdown run, like Keelan Marion is blocking his tail off on that play.
Yeah.
Like he's all up in this guy's grill. Like keep it. Like if he's just dogging it, like he's
Yeah.
free ready. Mark Fletcher probably gets tackled at like the 12-yard line. And, whatever. It's a
That's
nice
where
run,
like
but that's
Jacoby
not a
George
touchdown.
wasn't very good. You know,
Exactly.
he
Exactly.
struggled
And
with
like
that.
like Keelan Marion, and I think, CJ Daniels, all those guys, even Malachi Tony. Malachi Tony
Yeah, he
blocks.
tries.
Like, he tries
Yeah,
really
he
hard.
tries.
He gets thrown around a little bit sometimes, and but like
Yeah.
effort is at a 10, like
Yep.
always. And you see it with CJ Daniels too. And I think it's things like that that's just like it just gives it gives this room a little bit more juice. This group goes like you want to go to battle with these guys. I think these guys are about it,
That's kind of what I'm saying.
yeah, I do like just what you've
And you
seen.
hear the
And
coaches talk, they're saying that without saying it, if you
yeah,
know what I'm saying.
right,
Like Mario Cristobal and Shannon Dawson are saying that without straight up, saying, yeah, last year's group wasn't like this. They're not
right,
saying that outright, but you can tell they're kind of hinting at that.
yeah,
Also, too, like I think if you just talk about like performance on the field, like this group is better at contested catches than last year's
hmm
group. Would you disagree
oh
with that?
yeah, oh, 100%. There's like 5 catches
Uh,
that I can probably name right now that I don't know if a receiver from last year's team makes.
and then deep ball, the deep ball, I think like Malachi has three already.
Hmm.
CJ Daniels has three already. Keelan Marion got one
Yeah,
this
Tony
week.
Johnson
Josh
has one.
Moore got one this week.
Yeah,
So that explosive element is also there with this group. So
yeah,
I think, look, I think as we saw, my point is, I think as we saw more and more of fall camp, you and I both came to the conclusion like, look, this receiver group's going to be just fine. I think coming into camp, we were both kind of like, we'll see. We saw it. We are like, okay, it's going to be fine. I think now where I'm at is like, it might just be better than last year's group. I don't
yeah.
know.
No, you're not wrong. I
I'm
mean,
trending that way.
we have a lot of football
Yeah.
left to play, but to this point,
Yes.
they have
I don't think it's
been.
a crazy thing to ask. Are
No,
they
no,
better
it's
than
not.
last year's
It's
group?
not. It's not. I think it's time to start having that conversation, like about. Yeah, I mean, I think just this team in general. Like we were having. I know we were having conversations, just like, oh, who would you take, last year's team or this year's team? Like just us, and it's just like, man, this year's team is pretty good, and
Whose
uh,
team would win that game?
yeah, for
I
sure.
think.
Yeah, yeah, they would. I thought so before, but now I'm like certain that
Yeah.
this year's team would. But yeah, it's a. Yeah, a lot of football left to play, but super encouraged. And honestly, it's been, the receivers have been, even when I felt better about it, I think that this receiver room has still been better than I
That's kind
thought
of what I'm getting at.
once I kind of thought that it was going to be okay. So very encouraging for a lot of
Let's
reasons.
go to the O
Just like
let's go to the O
catching
line
ball.
a little bit.
Yep.
Is another question I didn't think I'd be asking. Is Samson Okunlola better than Matthew McCoy?
He might be. Is it
At guard,
officially
I mean,
Pancake Honcho season?
he played really well, I think, against
No,
USF.
he's playing awesome.
Um,
He's playing awesome.
Yeah. And okay, so yes, he is definitely part of the rotation. I think they're going to continue to rotate Sampson and Matthew, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that even is a conversation worth having. Who's better between those two? They're both good. Where my mind goes now is because I'm not at this point yet, though. I still think Sampson is best suited for his career to be a guard.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily view him like I do Matthew McCoy. I think Matthew McCoy has the potential to be next year's left tackle.
Hmm.
I personally don't think Sampson can be next year's left tackle. I think he can be next year's full-time 100% snap
Yeah.
guy at left guard.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I think that that's fair. I think that I that's I mean, I think it's where we're at with Samson, right? Like I think this is just what he's developed into, which is fine, you know. I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
these guys come out of high
He's
school
found
and
his role.
right, he's found his role, he's stuck with it and I think he found a spot that makes kind of the most sense for him. And I think that that works. You know, we project again coming out of high school. These guys get projected. You know, obviously for all the tools, and I think a lot of that, you know, that technical stuff that Samson I think was so good at. He had a lot of like framework to do. I think he had a lot of like power that he needed to learn how to generate, and I think he's doing that. And I
Yeah.
think just the way it's just worked out for him, the way it's clicked for him, I think has led to him just being because I think he still has a lot of the like that natural like kind of pass blocking ability that you would need at tackle, right? Like just the footwork. He's got really light, nice feet. I think that transitions well to guard because now he's starting to kind of generate some power. So you don't need to operate in as much space because you know you're not playing tackle, obviously. And I think it's just working for him. Like again, I did not expect. I
I
didn't
didn't
know what
either.
to expect from Samson, you know, at this point, and you know, all there was a lot of Matthew McCoy buzz. Like people were just like loving Matthew McCoy. But again, a lot of what we heard about Matthew McCoy is just like, you know, he's probably a future tackle. He's playing guard, and we haven't really seen him a ton at tackle. But I think, regardless, how we should feel about the situation is two guys that have the potential to
Yeah.
come back in 2026 that you feel really good about having. You know, you want to keep this thing rolling, right? You're going to lose Francis Mauigoa
Yeah.
and Inez Cooper, who have been mainstays. Obviously, center, you know, James Brockermeyer will move on, and you know, Markel Bell now, and you know, there's questions that you need to kind of answer year over year, and I think knowing that there's at least two solid, steady pieces on the left side of your offensive line that you kind of have in place is a good problem to have. And again, there's even still solutions. Like we know both those guys can play on the interior, so whatever that looks
Yeah.
like with a guy like Jackson Cantwell coming in, even though he might play on the right side, and whatever it looks like, it seems like there's answers. And it seems to me like they kind of like Max Buchanan. I mean, he's kind of coming in at that right guard
Yes.
spot every chance they get. So like, who
Kinsler.
knows? Yeah, and
So,
we'll see what it all looks like. But as an offensive line, I'm encouraged about now, and I'm encouraged about the future, just
yeah, yeah.
because Samson things coming together for Samson is a very good sign.
Yes. I didn't see it coming. Um, but he has looked good. So give credit to him. Offensive line, of course, was excellent. They only allowed three pressures as
Mhm.
a line in the game. So, you know, we talked about how Carson Beck is 80 something percent in the game on Saturday, and he was 5 of 8 on deep shots. That's all happening because of the time he has to work on the offensive line. Anything else you want to touch on briefly out of on the offensive? I mean, tight ends, there wasn't really much to talk about.
No,
Um, flip it to defense.
yeah, let's flip it to defense.
You touched on some good big picture stuff. You know, I did like I liked the way the defense responded after they allowed. I mean, look, those explosive plays, downfield passing plays against that offense and that quarterback is gonna happen. And, you know, the challenge is, okay, how do you respond from those plays? Do you allow it to avalanche on you and those big plays turn into touchdown drives? Or do you kind of bow up and, you know, tip your cap? Okay, you got us this snap. We're going to get you the next snap. And that's kind of what the defense showed on Saturday against USF, the ability to respond, competitive response to those, you know, adverse situational snaps in which, look, some of those big plays were just great plays by
Yeah,
Byron Brown, which is which is going to happen when you
Hmm.
play a good quarterback like that. Um, how about player wise? I'll tell you like one player that kind of jumped out to me rewatching it. I really liked how Jacoby Thomas performed.
Yeah.
He played fast and physical. He, of course, forced that fumble. It also looked like early on, because look, that offense, that USF offense, that style is hard to adjust to the speed of that offense in which they operate at that tempo in the first quarter in particular. It seemed like Jacoby Thomas was playing a big role in like getting guys lined up correctly from snap to snap, communicating with guys. Like he was doing a good job of being loud, demonstrative. I think he even like pushed a guy in, an alignment in which he thought he should be in relative to the formation. I was very impressed by Jacoby Thomas. Anyone stand out to you in particular?
Yeah, I mean Jacoby Thomas was awesome. And I think he plays fast too. It's not only like I feel like he kind of just
Yeah.
gets it. I think he plays that way too. You talk about one of the big plays Byron Brown made. I mean Jacoby Thomas is basically coming right at his hip. He's
Yeah.
drilling him, and he makes an awesome throw.
Yeah.
To a receiver that had a little bit of separation, but it was a dime. I mean, credit to him and the way he played the run, everything. Jacoby Thomas was awesome. I mean, I think there's like the obvious guys. I mean, I thought Ruben Bain was fantastic. I mean,
Yeah. Oh
just
yeah.
he was just dominant in way. Like
Yep.
it's so. There was a play. I think they were near the goal line on one of the plays, and he kind of just like crashes in and just like helps like stuff a run. That's just like he just gets there
Yeah,
so
he like
quick. Like
moves
his
six people and is like,
yeah, it's
yeah,
wild.
jams
Like
up the
the
play.
stuff that he's doing is just truly next level stuff. I mean, we've it's impressive watching him go. The tackle for loss coming out, was it coming out of the half or coming out of the weather? I think it was out of the weather delay, just right off the jump. Kind of awkward, really long delay in time, and you never really know how they're going to come out. Ruben Bain comes out. They try to like the little swing pass or something, and he just like nails a guy, tackle for loss. He made Byron Brown's life extremely difficult. So he was impressive. Someone kind of like off script that, I think deserves a little bit of love, David, is Chase Smith. I think
100%.
he had
100%
a
agree. He's
I thought he
flashing
had
big time.
yeah, he had an awesome. I mean, watching back,
He
I thought
played
he
really
played
well.
awesome.
Yes.
They USF tried to run like a trick halfback pass play to kind of ignite that offense. He
Yep.
totally blew that play up. He
Yep.
recovered the fumble that Jacoby
Yep.
Thomas had. I think this was a play that was in USF is driving on the goal line. He nearly picks off a pass. Kind of tips a
Yep.
pass that Byron Brown tried to throw. Like he was as a rotational linebacker. Again, another one. Did not have this one on my preseason
Yeah, no,
bingo
me
card, but
either.
Chase Smith is definitely flashing, and we know he was a good athlete. He's had to deal with some unfortunate injuries throughout his career, but that was an impressive. That's the best football I think we've seen Chase Smith play at his time here.
100% agree. He also just he's moving and looks healthier than we've ever seen him look. He's not wearing like I feel like the last 2 or 3 years he's always had that kind of like brace on his
Yeah,
knee as he's been playing. He's no longer wearing that, and which is a great sign, right? Because he did go through some serious injuries and bad injury luck. 100% agree. He looks great, and the good thing about him with him moving well is he does have the size you want. Like he has the
yeah,
length you want, he has the size you want at linebacker. So if it starts coming together and he emerges as like that clear number three linebacker, that rotational linebacker, I'm all about that because
yeah.
you got to look the part at linebacker, and he does look the part. So I agree. That halfback pass he read and took away, erased it. That was impressive, and I agree with you. I didn't see that one coming. I
Yeah.
also thought, going back to the D line, look, this is kind of a crazy thing to say too. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Like Ahmad Moten to me was great as well. I think he
Hmm.
was very good, disruptive, pressuring Byron Brown. David Blay was who he's been the first 2 weeks as well, active, stuffing the run, etc. I I really don't know. Like if we're talking just starting four, defensive linemen. I don't know if right now there's a better performing starting defensive line in the country right now than Miami, especially if, to me, the key to that is just Moten and Blay continuing to
Yeah.
play at a pretty high level. Because Mesidor, too, like Bain should get all the praise he's getting, all the attention he's getting. But Mesidor is also doing some dominating things on his side as well. And I I think, we talk about does Miami have the best offensive line in the country? I think that's a fair conversation to have. I also think they might, right now, again, plenty more football to be played. They might have the best starting defensive line in the country.
Yeah. It's been very, very impressive watching all those guys. Akeem Mesidor's another one. I think it's easy to, I think it's easy to gloss over the Akeem Mesidor stuff because he's an older guy, right? Like Ruben Bain
Yeah.
is a draft eligible junior who's getting like the first round buzz. So I feel like he naturally gets a lot of, again, deserved, 100%
Yeah.
deserved. But Akeem Mesidor, better. Again, another one that is just like I was kind of always just wait and see mode. You always hear I feel like every preseason we're always getting the Akeem Mesidor stuff, right? And it was always just like, all right, at some
Yes.
point you got to see it. He was injured. I feel like the past couple years it's always been I've heard
Yeah.
this like, oh, if Akeem Mesidor is healthy, he's our best defensive player. Like I've heard that before, like a year ago. And so there's always been a
Correct.
lot of belief in him, but he's never really been healthy enough to show it. And I feel like now we're seeing the Akeem Mesidor that I think internally they've always believed him to kind of be. Now that he has the opportunity to play healthy again, I think shedding some weight was good for him. Leaning up, he looks fast, he looks explosive. Again, he gets after the quarterback and defends the run as well as anyone. It's a really impressive group, man. All again, Moten is playing awesome, Blaze playing awesome, and man, I don't know. I don't want to start thinking crazy thoughts, David, but I really like this team, man. Just what they've shown through 3 weeks. Talk about it. Just all the places it seems like they need to be good at, they're good at, and it's
Yeah.
shown so far. And I think it's why they've been able to find success in these games.
What's your thoughts on the depth D line, how those guys are performing? I thought Blunt showed up a little bit
Hmm.
on Saturday. We saw him get,
Yep.
I would call it like an effort. He was in on one of I don't know if he got official credit for the
Yeah.
sack, but he was right there on one of
Yeah.
those
He had like the
effort
takedown,
plays.
I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had like the
But
flashy
I thought
effort
he
play.
played okay. I think
Yeah.
he's flashing. There's still more meat on the bone, I think, for him to, you know, be a little more consistent. Um, but he's starting to come along pretty nicely. And, Justin Scott, I think, everyone wants to see more from him,
Hmm.
but he certainly flashed in
Yeah.
that Notre Dame game. So the
Yeah. He
talents
has
that
mo
this,
he has moments, I think.
yes. Yeah, I mean, Mario Cristobal wants this to be a line of scrimmage team, line of scrimmage program, and it's certainly looking that way. Anything else you want to touch on from secondary, linebacker level? I think like OJ Frederic had a very nice PBU early in
Hmm.
the game.
Yep.
And, on the one he got beat, like to me, that's one of those you tip your cap to.
Yep.
Like
Great throw.
that receiver just kind of has like half a gear that maybe Frederic doesn't have, in terms of speed. And he kind of hit that top speed and generated a little bit of separation as the ball just dropped in
Hmm.
perfectly. Um, but overall, like I thought, like they didn't even really challenge Xavier Lucas.
Yep.
Um, of course, Bryce Fitzgerald just keeps doing Bryce Fitzgerald things, and he looks like a future star.
Yep. Hoyser had a good play in coverage too on kind of like a
Ozer was solid. He was
yeah.
solid on Saturday. He did a good
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
So I didn't really notice Keontae Scott much, which is probably a good thing
Right.
against that type of offense. So, overall, it was a dominating win.
Yeah.
Let's,
Super.
let's flip the page a little bit. We don't need to go too deep into this, but and we'll get out of here on this because we want these to just be conversational, kind of quick podcasts. Early UF stuff, right? Miami's now number 4 in the country, according to the latest AP Top 25. Miami's a 7.5 point favorite, according to FanDuel Sportsbook. Um, Let me ask you this, Gabby. Do you believe like this game this specific game is a rat poison type of game. Rat poison being a factor that Miami has to fight against because I don't know. I don't want to skew your answer, but what do you think?
No. Um, I don't. I don't just
I
because I
don't
feel like
either.
I feel like this is kind of
It's Florida.
yeah, man. You don't. It's one of those you don't
To me,
gotta.
rat poison is like NC State,
Yeah, if they were
SMU, like
playing
those
Virginia
opponents.
this week, I would say rat
Yeah.
poison all the way. But I think honestly, Florida is the perfect opponent to have like in this situation because I think it just kind of keeps you up, right? It keeps you up
Yep.
and it forces them to kind of continue to stay super locked in. Because, again, all the game day and all the buzz and all that stuff, but like no one there, I think there's also just like no one there no one there is fond of Florida, right? From recruiting stuff, they battle on the
As they
trail.
shouldn't be.
Right,
That's what I
exactly.
mean. This is a
Exactly.
game where
And I think you
like
saw if you watched the press conference today of Mario Cristobal, like Mario Cristobal just looks kind
yeah,
of pissed off the whole time. There's nothing about
yeah,
Mario Cristobal that
by
seems like
design.
chipper. Yeah,
Yeah.
naturally. There's
He's
nothing
sending
about
a
Mario
message.
for sure. There's nothing about Mario Cristobal that says like complacency, that says
Right.
we're feeling good about ourselves. Like everything about this is he talked about the process being process oriented and kind of critiquing everything, even the good things. I feel like he was just
Yep.
critiquing
More
and
progress
critiquing and
to be made.
critiquing. Which again, I think that's the way you got it. This is a long season, right? Where it's September 15th. We're in
Yeah, it's so long.
the infant stages of the 2025 season. And I think they know that you got to take this one game because Florida is good enough to like that. Florida's good enough to
Yeah,
beat
they're good.
Miami.
They have
They're a
talent.
good team. Yeah, they're a talented team. So
They're
you
not
have to show up
playing
and play
well,
that
but
game, right? They're not definitely not playing well. They're playing good on
yeah.
defense. Like they're playing. I feel like they're playing well enough on defense to kind of like, be respectable. The offense seems
They
like
no,
a
they're
dumb.
playing their defense is playing good enough to win those
Right,
games. They
right.
Do you know how many touchdowns they've allowed?
I what? No, I don't. Because
Two
one of
on the
LSU
season,
scores is a pick six, right?
right? Two on the season.
Yeah, I mean the defense is
So,
playing
I
very
mean,
well,
right.
and one of the
And the
touchdowns
offense,
was a bust because USF was in a defensive substitution. They got jacked up basically. They just got tied up, and
right.
that was so one of the touchdowns was a bust.
The crazy stat I heard today on Florida's offense is, and this is in these FBS games, so this would be against USF and LSU. Florida's had more touchdowns taken off the board than touchdowns that they've scored.
Wow,
So I think
that's
it's like
wild.
three touchdowns taken off the board from, penalties or whatever. And the offense has scored two touchdowns in these games. So um, look, we don't need to we're gonna do more research into Florida, watch them more closely and discuss it in a later podcast this week. I still think, I mean, I don't know if this is an alarming thing to say. Notre Dame's 0-2, but I thought this before the season started. I still think Florida is the most talented team just from a personnel standpoint. Now, it's not performing like the best team and it's, not clicking and coming together like they're the best team, but just talent and personnel and starting 22 and the depth behind that starting
Yeah,
22. I think this is the most talented team on Miami's schedule. Again, it's not reaching that potential. Part of that's just has to do with Billy Napier and how he's putting it all together. Some of it, to a big part of it too, is DJ Lagway looks rusty and just
hmm
not confident. Um, but I do like I watch this like I don't know, man. I think line of scrimmage. I think they're better than Notre Dame from what I've seen so far. Um, I don't know if that surprises people, but I don't think you know Notre Dame is as good on the line of scrimmage this year as they were last year. So, anyways, this is a team to take seriously. Yes, Miami, if they handle business, will win this game. But Florida has a lot of talent, and they're going to come into Miami swinging because of how Miami embarrassed them in last year's game. So I don't know. Anything stand out to you? Just big picture Florida thoughts that strike you right now?
Yeah, I just think it's a good team, right? Like we were ranking how dangerous all these games were, even coming into the week, and I still feel like this is the toughest game remaining on Miami's schedule. This it's a really good team, and yeah, my whole thing is I don't know where Florida's at, right? Like I think
Yeah,
coming off of the L, and I think
they
that's the
are a
biggest thing.
mess. They
Yeah,
are a
it seems
mess.
like it's a. I'm just wondering how much this team still has left in the tank to kind of give after going into LSU and the quarterback throws 5 picks and the defense is playing super hard and not really getting. I'm just wondering what like the morale and the demeanor of this team is.
Right.
The buy-in as far as just like, hey, we're here for this. We'll see. This is a, I don't know. I don't want to speak too soon, but if this doesn't go well for Florida on Saturday, it could be like a tarmac game
Big
for
changes could
for
come.
for
Yeah.
for Billy Napier. So I think we're at a I think Florida's at a potential breaking point, a kind of a crossroads type of moment. Because if you lose to your rival,
Yeah.
and it's let's say and it doesn't look good and the wheels fall off again on offense and but at the same time, this thing could also click and this thing could work and
That's the
but
question,
and
right?
and
Will
my
it
thing
click?
right and it's just like like is DJ Lagway broken or is this fixable in a week? Because 5 interceptions is bad. It's a very, very, very bad game. That's a very bad thing to do. So is that like where's his confidence level at? What adjustments do they make to kind of have to start protecting him? Because I think it's clear to your point, David, he's rusty. We'll see. I still have to watch more of
Yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah.
I still have to watch more of the LSU game. This is just me eyeballing it from what we have, from what the little that I've seen, and kind of stat book watching, box score watching. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think that there's a lot of questions about just who is Florida going to be in this game. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. It'll be fun. We'll get out of here on that note. Again, we'll have a full preview of this game here later in the week on the podcast. And appreciate everyone for listening. And until next time, take care.